Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Let's go and check out Andre the Giant, how amazing genetics make life impossible.
Andre the Giant's size gave him everything.
The largest and highest paid and best known wrestler in the entire world.
Once being listed by the Guinness Book of Records as the highest paid wrestler ever. These same genetics, however, made his life a living hell, with Andre famously stating, "I would give much money to be able to spend one day per week as a man of regular size." When he was born, Andre already weighed 13 pounds or 6 whole kilos, which is almost double the average male baby, weighing 3.3 kilos or 7.5 pounds. Growing up, Andre played soccer, with his childhood friends stating he used to be the goalie, but the ball would never go in because he was so big. By the age of 12, Andre was 6'3" and 240 pounds or 108 kilos.
As I started going to school, I was bigger than all the kids.
He was too big to fit on the local school bus, and his family didn't have the money to buy a car that could deal with his weight. As a result, Andre left school to work on a farm, where one day a friend of the farm's owner drove
Because he couldn't go in a bus, he had to not go to school? That's sad.
slowly past the field in a Rolls Royce. "I will own such a car as that someday," Andre said quietly. "Stop dreaming and start raking," his father replied. "You are a big boy, but that dream is too big even for you."
I said to my dad, someday I will get a
No
car like
dream
this.
is
And
too
he said, quit dreaming and keep walking.
According to his brother, Andre did the farm work of 3 different men and would drive an unregistered car as the cops wouldn't dare to stop him. When he tried to join the military,
Andre was deemed unfit for service as there were no shoes big enough, bunks long enough, or trenches deep enough to accommodate him.
yet these same
That's
issues made him a
crazy.
wrestling sensation. He'd officially become Andre the Giant, a famous televised wrestler, but more notably had grown so much, his own parents didn't recognize him when he came back home.
My parents,
Brother.
they was a big fan of me, they saw me on TV, but they don't know.
Your parents were a fan and they didn't know it was you.
No, because I changed my name.
At over 7 foot tall and 500 pounds or 227 kilos, Andre saw a doctor to figure out why he'd grown so much. Acromegaly was the diagnosis, a rare 1 in 12,000 brain tumor causing the body to produce excessive growth hormone. It leads to extra large hands, feet and fingers, as well as a bigger jaw, nose, lips and tongue. According to Ripley's Believe It or Not, his fingers were so big around that the ring he wore had an opening that could easily fit a silver dollar, which is 38.1 mil. To put the size into perspective, the average man's finger is around 10 to 11 mil around.
Whoa.
This could be seen in
3
interviews
times,
like
4
this.
times.
This is his ring, and I kid you not, I can get all 3 fingers in
Yeah,
that ring.
3
With people on
times
Reddit
the
adding,
size.
favorite fact is that Andre was so large, he could push a hard-boiled egg through his wedding ring. My wife met him once and instead of a handshake, she said she could only shake one of his fingers. These elements made him so unique that when doctors offered to remove his tumor, Andre bluntly refused.
He decided that he didn't want treatment at that time because he thought it would interfere with his career as a wrestler.
It stated, "If this is the size that God wanted me to be, I'm going to be this size."
Dude,
I
no
use what
way he
God
could.
give me. I'm not supernatural. I just myself.
So he literally was able to fix it, but he didn't want to because he knew he was special that way. That's
What
sad.
God give me, I use it to make a living.
However, this gave him a short life expectancy.
The commissioned doctors at Madison Square Garden told me he's going to be lucky to live to be 40.
And meant he'd keep on growing until the day he'd die. By the time he'd joined the WWE, Andre had reached 7'4", peaking at 560 pounds or 2.
But does it mean like if they remove the tumor that he will stop growing but stay the same size that he grew? Like maybe that would be that would have been enough.
25 kilos.
What size boot is that, Andre?
It's 22, size 22.
Take a look at that along my size 9.
This made him the most successful wrestler ever.
Without a doubt, Andre was the most famous wrestler in the world.
Yet it also continued to make his life harder.
It's difficult everywhere I go. They don't build anything for big people. They build everything for blind people, for crippled people, for some other people, but not for big people.
Andre was constantly visiting new cities,
The nature of your job, you're traveling all the time, aren't you? Like 320 nights a year.
Yes.
which came with its own set of challenges.
Hotel beds, are they a problem?
I tried to find a hotel where they got a king-size bed. There was, when I go in Japan, all those cars are so small.
Sure.
Even in a hotel, I can go through the door, I can go to the bathroom, everything is so small.
Andre was too large to fit inside most cars.
When I'm traveling with a car, I need 2 cars.
That's right. You can't even get in it.
There's nowhere for the giant to live anymore.
Yeah, that's true. Well, you can put 1 car in each foot.
Taking a taxi wasn't a better alternative,
Funny story, one time we couldn't get a taxi because he was so big.
and when they finally got one, Andre was charged extra.
I asked him how much he has, and we see the counter, he charges double. So you're a big guy, you have to pay double.
It seems that flying was Andre's only
What? A taxi, you guys. Literally the same road. Maybe it used a bit more because of the weight, but think about the luggage with travelers. Like, what? That's so mean.
option where he'd have to book the entire exit row. However, thankfully, he was able to fix this problem.
What about plane travel? Does that get old after a while? Awful?
I go in first class, but I don't believe mine was.
Despite this costing an absolute fortune,
I'm traveling so much. Last year I bought for $67,000 just an airplane ticket.
there was still another even bigger flying problem. Andre couldn't fit inside
Especially
the
back
toilet.
then.
He therefore had to relieve himself prior to boarding.
Andre would always time it so that he would take a dump before, he went to the airport.
But in one notable instance, he forgot to go beforehand.
He's up in first class and he tells them, I gotta go. And they're like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do?
The onboard solution wasn't exactly glamorous,
He would relieve himself into a bucket and then they bring it in and dump it into the toilet.
but in retrospect, the story's pretty funny.
The smell that started coming out, there was people falling out of their seats almost into the aisles, puking, crying, screaming.
Sadly, this didn't only
Guys.
apply to planes.
They literally overdid it. Like, yeah, this, don't get me. Urine smell is disgusting. But how many times did you have to go to like a public bathroom in the middle of the road, those ones that you have to stop, or the ones on a party or concert that you have to go inside? They smell so nasty. But if you have to go, you have to go. And you live it. It's nasty, but you don't puke over it. Like, it wouldn't be the first time you smell the smell of urine. Like, they overdid it. Unless his smells different because he's a giant, but I don't know. I don't think so.
Where does he shit?
In the bathtub.
No.
Yeah. There's no toilet gonna take his ass.
And with monumental bells came monumental farts.
Are you
It
kidding
sounded
me?
like, like a deep roar, kind of like thing. It would rumble.
On the set of Princess
can't
Bride, this
shit
actually
on a
altered
toilet?
production.
He lets out the most monumental fart. The whole plywood set was shaking, and the sound guy lifted his headphones off his ears and was doing that, and it went on for, somebody timed it was 16 seconds.
While Andre's former wrestling opponents thought the wind lasted even longer.
And I could feel my fucking shoulder just vibrate. You know how long a
That's
giant can fart?
crazy.
How long? About 40 seconds.
Andre was so different to everybody else, it got to the point of public ridicule. Hulk Hogan explained when we'd walk through the airports, if he got ahead of me, I'd hear all the unkind things that people would say. Oh my God, look at that guy. It would just break my heart.
They perceived him as a freak of nature, and that hurt Andre.
I mean, oh my God, look at that guy. It doesn't sound like the worst thing ever. Yeah, you would see him and you would say, oh my God, look at him. Like, that's a normal reaction if you see a giant in front of you.
More than anything, this guy was very sensitive. Boss, sometimes they laugh
Big
at
boy,
me, they
but
point at me. It hurts my feelings. You never think a guy like that would cry, but he would cry.
Andre stated in an interview, I would give much money to be able to spend 1 day per week as a man of regular size. I would shop and I would go to the cinema and drive around in a sports car and walk down Fifth Avenue and stare at the other people for a change.
So he literally gave up that dream for success as a wrestler, but no money could buy him normal life. So what was the point?
match. Disguising himself in public simply wasn't possible.
Muhammad Ali could put on a trench coat and a ball cap. Andre the Giant couldn't hide in the backseat of a car.
Instead opting to numb himself completely.
He never, ever, ever quit drinking. He drank from the time he got up to the time he went to bed. If he could figure out a way, he just done it in his sleep.
While Andre's drinking feats are often highly romanticized, there's no denying he had a serious problem.
He started drinking about 9 o'clock in the morning. He drank like, I'm not exaggerating, like 20 bottles of new Beaujolais.
Doing so to cope with his difficult life.
He drank because he was in pain. His spine and his neck and his knees gave him a lot of trouble.
He drinks 6 bottles of wine before every wrestling match, with Jake the Snake explaining that Andre once drank 48 beers in a single car trip.
He drank 2 cases of beer and did not have to piss. How can you do that?
This was nothing compared to a different night.
Is it true that you, in one sitting, drank 117 beers?
Yes.
Were you drunk at the end of that?
I don't remember. I think I passed out.
With Andre's unofficial record being 156 beers in one sitting, which fellow wrestlers Dusty Rhodes and Michael Hayes confirmed. However, this only added extra weight onto his body.
I myself saw him almost every night drink 7,000 calories worth of alcohol.
Which seemed to be the primary motive for why he eventually quit.
But you don't drink anymore?
Not since 14 months ago I quit.
You feel better for not drinking?
Yeah, because when I was drinking beer, I used to weigh 560 pounds.
And you've trimmed down now to?
Well, now I'm 470.
This led to the infamous Andre the Giant vs. Hulk Hogan, after which his career was basically over. When he next came to a match, Andre was using crutches, showing the decline of his physical health. He'd retired to a ranch in North Carolina until he flew back to France for his father's funeral. He'd take this photo after the ceremony without realizing that 3 days later, Andre himself would die of a heart attack.
I'd like to announce...
Dude, he looked so bad in that picture. Like, you can literally see that his body deteriorated so much. I'm gonna go back a bit. Look at that. That is so sad. Oh man.
For his father's funeral. He'd take this photo after the ceremony without realizing that 3 days later, Andre himself would die of a heart attack.
I'd like to announce the death of one of my favorite wrestlers and one of the most famous wrestlers of all time. He died this week in Paris, France, after going home to his father's funeral.
His body was too large to fit in any French crematorium, and as a result he was shipped back to the USA. His ashes weighed 17 pounds or almost 8 kilos, being just another reason he's remembered as a legend.
Because of how much it weighed? Really, man? That's what you're gonna say, Sonny? Oh my goodness. It is so sad. Like, he gave it all for his career, but he couldn't even enjoy the fruit of it. He is a legend. Oh, Andre the Giant. That's so sad.